1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Very exciting numbers.
Yeah, numbers seem to be disappearing from mind lately.
Like an interesting distraction.
Yeah, but for me, like they don't make sense anymore.
I've been super dyslexic with numbers lately, which is really unfortunate because it's almost tax time. So I've transposed numbers on it, depositing a check. It's like, the check's for 123.45, and I'll say 132.45. And of course, then, it gets corrected, and then there's a bank fee and all that nonsense. Then I have to go to the bank and go, can you please to be reversing this? They go, oh, of course, you're a good customer in good standing. We'll reverse it. And
I wonder what world would be without numbers. Like, can it exist without numbers?
Well, we just watched Life of Chuck,
and
one of the storyline subplot elements is that like he's an accountant and his father was an accountant, and his father was talking about how everything's numbers, and numbers are art.
Yeah,
which I don't know.
I mean, this is strange, but numbers are art in the expression of things, but like we tend to lose
numbers.
ourselves
Yeah, numbers
to
can be art.
Yeah, like the sacred geometry numbers is an expression.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's art, but then like when you're drowning in numbers,
when it's tax,
I guess that is technically art. You drowning is art.
I don't know. Like he worded it in the movie that if some lazy accountant were to do these organizations' taxes, then they could it would hurt a lot more. But he's good at the art of taxes, and so he does tax magic with numbers, and they saved a lot of money. Is that art? I suppose. It doesn't feel like art when I'm doing my taxes.
Like I think the point of that scene, and I realized I said that he looked like Pinocchio's dad, whatever his name was. But the scene was
Geppetto.
But the scene was also like Pinocchio's dad, like he's sitting at the table, right? And
instead of a wood workbench, it's an
accountant bench, and then the Pinocchio sitting on the other side,
getting wisdom from dad.
Wisdom, right? There's this wisdom partaken onto you that is like whatever.
At the same time, that is the moment that Chuck, like spoiler alert,
gives up on life.
Gives up on life right then and there.
Yeah, but like all of the lessons Pinocchio's dad was teaching him, I don't actually remember what he was teaching them, right? But it was like life of peril. Right?
Oh, is it like, if you're a real boy, there's life of peril?
No. It was not. It's not that if you're a real boy, it's like I think he was saying like be careful because the life is full of peril. I want to say that. I could be wrong because like my version of Pinocchio. I know the American version of Pinocchio, but Russian of Pinocchio is a little bit different. So I don't remember the conversation, but I know the movie producers purposely staged that scene to look just like the Pinocchio scene.
Right.
I know that just because it literally just looks like it. And so, right, like father pushing wisdom onto the son, for the most part, is some sort of lesson in distress and peril. Right? Like, oh, don't do that. Don't go become, whatever, because that doesn't make any money. Dancing doesn't make you any money. Go be something sensible, like an accountant.
Right.
Don't do what you love. Do something sensible.
Right. And he said, numbers don't lie. Like in statistics, they can tell you about your future. And statistically, you will make a better living as an accountant than you will as a dancer, which I suppose statistically is true.
Yeah.
But I would never give that advice to someone I would never give that advice.
Yeah, but like most of Aiden's friends now who are going into college are going to college with that in mind. I went into college with that in mind.
I'm so lucky. I went into the college with that in mind, but that lined up with what I wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah. But like, I mean, it worked out okay for me, but like I made a decision based on money. And it seems like everybody else, right? Like they went through their first semester and now they're going through their last semester or the second semester of freshman year.
Yeah.
And they're like, holy shit, you know, the reality is hitting.
Right. We know some people who've dropped out of college already. We know some people who've completely changed majors.
Yeah.
And those are probably the right choices for those people, because they quickly learned that this is not where they're,
but
I don't know, where their heart is.
But if you're right, when I changed my majors to for the money. I actually started with what I wanted, which was interior design. I'm not saying it actually was the right thing. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're a kid and you're 18 and you're trying to make all these adult decisions, what the heck?
Right. I mean, you're 18. Your brain isn't even formed yet. What do you want to do for the rest of your life? Commit to it and then, rack up student debt to pay for it.
Yeah. 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 I guess it is not far away from the topic that
I don't remember the topic already.
We kind of mentioned it in the last podcast, and then you and I continued talking afterwards, and it kind of came up. Is that like the essence of you and the wholeness of you only lives where your heart is, like your open heart is. And the thing that we search for our entire life is something, and that something is wholeness, but that wholeness only comes when you're living your truth. And so, like that, there's a lot there to unpack, right? But I realized, it's interesting to me that not whatever transition I'm going through right now, I realize how important it is for people to continue to live in their status quo, even if their status quo is a pretend story. And a large part of them maybe even realizes that is a pretend story, but they want the pretend story because they want that journey, right? So I don't know if I'm like reneging on 122 episodes of our podcast right now, but I'm thinking it is extremely important to let other people follow their choices. And I guess the difficult part is if those choices are not in alignment with you, that's fine. But then I think that's the necessity that anybody would feel, right? Any necessity that I would have felt for you to be something else was there because my unsafety was triggered.
Right.
But at the same time, I thought, okay, no amount of teaching, no amount of talking like about this will sway someone away from their path. And in fact, it will actually reinforce that path because they will have something to get angry at. If they hear the truth.
Nobody gets angrier than when they hear the truth.
Yeah. And so when they hear the truth, the amount of anger that would generate within you would be equivalent to the amount of need that you would have in order to suppress that anger down. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like not equivalent, slightly higher. If you hear truth or something that leads you to truth, but that truth has you unraveling the story that you're choosing to live, right? And you're choosing to live a lie, the amount of anger and influx you would have would be enough to suppress the truth from coming back out.
Right.
But I say that, and now I realize, no, I think it is extremely important for some people to continue to live their lies. Because it forms a narrative, it forms a story, and it kind of facilitates their path.
That's just their destiny, almost?
Or like their path. I don't know if it's their destiny. Like you and I build all kinds of things onto our destiny.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the word. Well, destiny is very loaded and can mean a lot of different things. We don't have to go into that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, go ahead.
I was going to say that, when we first started, I guess I was a little later than you. When I first started this and you were talking to me and you were telling me oh, can't you picture this utopian world? And I just wanted to fight it. I just wanted to fight it. And I think there were a lot of topics in line with this. Then I just wanted to fight it, and I just wanted to maintain my status quo because that was nice and safe and comfortable and known. And you're right. You certainly can't force anybody to change. That just doesn't work. Period. And it's like the best you can do is have compassion for where they are, and you can offer advice. You don't have to force it. You can go, hey, have you considered this? Or hey, have you looked at it this way? And that's about all you can do. You can talk about it, but at some level it becomes, academic and theoretical. And that's a difficult place from which to evoke change.
Yeah.
Like, I believe that the change only happens when you feel it. And for me, that's the hardest. Like, what were the three? I had three levels. There's like the intellectually knowing it, and then there's the believing it, and then there's the feeling it. And that's the order to me for which it's easiest to hardest. And you may believe something, but you just don't feel it. And that's,
Yeah, but like to begin with, on a spiritual journey, you hear a lot of things.
You hear a lot of things.
And you're like, okay, that makes sense.
Some
kind
contradictory.
Sort of.
Yeah, makes sense. Is like I understand it.
Mm-hmm. What makes sense is like, oh, okay, yeah, it's out there intellectually, yeah.
Yeah, and that's nudging into believing it, because if it makes sense, it's easier to believe it than if it doesn't make sense, right? But none of that helps you believe it. Believing it is a completely different process.
You mean feeling it?
Yeah, sorry. Feeling it is a completely different process
than believing
it or knowing / understanding it. And it's like there's nothing you can do to force it. There's nothing I can do to force it, other than just sit there with it. And that is not a guarantee that I will feel it.
Yeah. In the past, for me, because I'm looking back. We started this podcast, and I'm like, okay, well, you and I are going through this. Why not record it? But then also there was this thought of like, when you spend enough time talking about something and trying to understand something, like you give your mind and form like direction in the goal, but like it's not really a goal like in life. It is just like a trajectory into a commitment, right? Like same thing, like if you say like, oh, it's January and I'm going to go to the gym, right? To begin with, is this idea that like, oh, I'm going to start walking in this direction and I'm going to go to the gym, right? And to begin with, you want results. Like at the gym, it's a little bit more physical. So like, oh, you want results and you want to feel, right? But you start feeling better right away. Like if you have not been exercising, you start exercising right now, regardless of the results of losing fat and not losing fat, getting toned or not getting toned, you start to feel better, right? I hope that's the case, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. But like that, but participating in something that has you committed on the road towards something by default inserts this, let's say, structure or a direction, mind, body, even emotion. In this case, because it's such a big emotional exploration, an emotional direction into commitment to be different or to be aware or to gain more awareness, right? In our case, it's not to be different. It's just to actually be more truthful to ourselves, which means be aware in the moment where you're likely to be untruthful to yourself.
Right. And I think that goes down to that, knowing, believing, feeling thing too, because it's easy to lie to yourself about something you know, and it's slightly harder to lie to yourself about something you believe, but it's really hard to lie to yourself about something you feel. Like this feels connected somehow. Like if you're driving down the road and someone cut you off, right? there's your internal reaction and then there's your external reaction. And your external reaction is a little easier to control because, you're not going to go run them off the road or pull out a gun or flip them off or whatever, I assume. So okay. Your internal reaction, though, is like, oh my gosh, look at this jerk. And maybe you catch it and go, okay, well, maybe he's in a hurry. Maybe he's late. Maybe he's going to the hospital. Okay, whatever. And maybe you backwards justify it. After that, you have your reaction, you get angry, but then you backwards justify it. But if you're in a place where you just feel that compassion for everybody, I don't think you would react like that at all. I think it would just be like, okay, look at that. And there wouldn't be a charge to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if this is completely connected. It feels somehow connected.
No, I mean, it's connected. It's kind of like a rudimentary interpretation of being elsewhere.
Yeah. So you can't, I think it's really hard to lie to yourself about something you know, believe, and feel. I don't think you can do that.
Yeah. But
at least not long term.
Yeah. But deep down, that connection of, let's say, of anger towards somebody who cuts you off on the road, right? Let's say you taper off the physical expression of aggression towards that person. And then you're just now like angry, like inside your mind, whatever I guess that is, feeling. It's not just angry. You think it's an angry feeling, right?
Right.
But this is sliding back into lying, right? Like anger obviously is just a tool to go and realize, oh, there's anger. And if you're on the road to awareness, then you can then use that to go further into like, oh, well, but it's not actually anger, is it? It's disrespect. And it's entitlement. Like, I feel like they're entitled and I feel like they're disrespecting me. And I feel like, I don't know what else. Those are the two things that would come up.
Right. No, anger is just the mask over fear. And disrespect is I think they all go down to fear and unsafety. Oh, now I'm going to be late. Oh, now he thinks he's better than me because he cut me off. Now whatever it happens to be.
I guess to me is disrespect.
But disrespect, I think, is somehow fear because that makes you lesser than, at least in their eyes, or maybe in your eyes or something. If someone disrespects you, what does that change in the real world?
Well, no, to me, it goes back to like the whole, we've been on the topic of like this lately of like unfairness of the universe. Like,
but that's unsafe too.
The unsafety. It's not fear. It's unsafety.
Okay. Yeah. Unsafety.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of put fear and unsafety in the same bucket, but maybe they're different.
Like to me, I do not feel fear as viscerally as I feel unsafety. Right. And so to me, that is my word that is extremely beneficial to me because I know exactly where it puts me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, right, if we are on this journey, right, and we want to participate in the game of awareness, like, oh, I'm aware, I'm not aware, there's a thing to be aware about, there's another thing to be aware about, there's like this thing, right? Right. This happened to me this morning. Like, I woke up and I started channeling. I started talking to somebody, and I'm talking to somebody, and they're telling me that like, well, I'll just say it like that you're getting ready to go on a journey, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, and to me, whenever I discuss things, right, there's a thing that they say, and then there's my internal response, right? And even if they is my higher self, regardless, it's a dialogue that generates something, right? And I'm like, wait, what is this journey, right? And like my thought process automatically goes into unsafety. Like, wait, is this an unsafe journey, right? The what?
That's so funny. That's right where you go. Is this an unsafe journey?
Well,
Instead of, ooh, that sounds neat.
Well, I'm being honest with myself of how I actually feel when I hear things, right? So to me, going on a journey, all of a sudden, I'm like, fuck, should I be afraid Do you know? Do I need to be afraid? Is this
Hey,
unsafe?
should I be afraid? That might help.
Yeah, right.
That'll help.
Right. And I'm noticing the remnants of that like control of like, oh, wait, when you hear something and going on a journey means change, right? And we are the most afraid of change, right? The reason why we don't want to change is because we don't know what's on the other side. And to me, going on a journey means you don't know what's on this journey. And so that I automatically notice this like, oh, wow, look, I have fear regarding the idea of going on the journey because I know it will be different. I know things on the other side of this journey will be different, right? And then I know I'm like, oh, shit, things will come up that will be triggering. And I will have to, like, you see, and so like the fearful part of me went, be tested on my journey in order to see if my awareness will come in and I can be impartial and then just vibe with it, let's say, as opposed to be in fear and unsafety, right? As it's happening. It's just already happening, right? And then the discussion point went into like, well, what if you just are and you just release all the concepts that you're afraid of, right? Which is kind of what I've been trying to practice is like, right, the fear generates a result, it generates an outcome that you bring into your fruition just by the mere nature of you not being aware that you are afraid of something or feel unsafe towards something, right? And yeah, and so like, I think this is what I'm trying to point out here. So even the desire to be awakened and the desire to handle things properly when someone cuts you off in traffic, in my case, comes in with this beautiful topping of unsafety. Like, oh, look, it's going to be unsafe because I'm going to be tested in my form of awareness. And I'm like, how deep do these, what are they? What is the word?
Roots.
Roots, but it's with a T.
Tendrils?
Yeah, maybe go right in order to stabilize the idea of some notion of control that I feel safe against. So then I can continue to lie to myself about the fact that I have yet to actually surrender and just be vibing with anything that comes my way. Do you see what I mean? Even the idea that like, oh, when something comes my way, I'm going to be vibing is in fact not vibing. Right? I'm not vibing if I'm just set on making sure that when something comes my way, I acknowledge it properly.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
The density that I hold to make sure that the status quo does not change is very great. And this is what I wanted to say is like it completely keeps you away from yourself, from the wholeness. And me even knowing that, I still find it threatening because like deep down, maybe we are afraid of wholeness. We're afraid of actually reaching what we want.
I think that's true. I think that's some sort of weird truth that like, ooh, there's what, I think everybody deep down wants wholeness, right? I think there's this idea that what there was in me. I mean, even from a young age, I don't know that I could articulate it, but I had this idea that there's something I thought it was out there that is that that I was seeking. I wasn't doing a great job at it, but there's
in the young age, you just know it's missing.
I just know it's missing, but it's out there because it doesn't feel like it's in here, and I don't know what it is, but it's out there. Maybe in a cave in the Himalayas. I don't know. But there, especially lately, I agree that there is this idea that, oh, I want it, but if I get it, everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
If I get it, what do I look like? What do my relationship look like? What does my job look like? What does my life look like? I don't know.
Well, the remnants of the fear, right?
Everything changes and change is scary. So do I really want it?
Yeah, remnants of the fear is still there, right? Because you're still in a 3-dimensional space. And because you're like holding on to the last grip of
everything I know,
fake reality, that doesn't serve you any well.
Yeah, everything I know will change. You fundamentally know that everything that you know, everything that you are will change somehow if you become whole. And so it's like, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to give up everything that I know and that I am. That sounds scary.
Yeah, to the point where even if you've been on the journey trying to be aware of all these things.
Right. Even though it's like all these things that you are, that you know, are they positive? Not necessarily. A lot of them are not, if you said, would you rather have this or not? Well, no, not really. It's not great. But still, it's really familiar.
It's everything you know.
It's everything that you know. You disintegrate and become. I mean, I don't know if it's ego death. If that's the right word for it, or whatever. But you change. There's the Buddha before and then the Buddha after.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to sit here and look and go, oh well, obviously the Buddha after is the better human, right? And look how wise and enlightened and and I assume peaceful and content, and is just sharing his gifts with the world instead of just living in debauchery beforehand.
Yeah like it's
but it's hard to do that for yourself, because right now 3D life is even if it's not good, it's still good.
It's safe.
It's known. Even if it's not good, even if it's objectively, oh, my relationship's falling apart and I lost my job and I'm going to lose my house and, my toes falling out, whatever. It's real. It feels really real. And it feels like, even if it sucks, I don't really want to give it up. It really feels like that sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's a really bizarre function of the human psyche, I think. That we know, it's like we know that this wholeness is out there. We fundamentally know that it is good for us, right? How can it not be? It's wholeness. It's definitionally good.
Yeah, but wholeness is not even, you can't even describe the wholeness with a word of wholeness. Do you know what I mean?
The only thing you can do is describe what it is not. And that is how you feel right now.
Yeah. But the wholeness, I guess, is the best word possible that we have to it.
We can go out and, it isn't even faking it. We can distract ourselves with heroin and gambling and working and exercising and who knows what. And that makes us forget
the wholeness.
Forget the lack of wholeness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We went on a journey to Chile a little while ago, and before it, you were apprehensive about it. You were a little nervous, that
that happens to me on all travel.
Right, and that used to happen to me, but the last several, I've just been excited and oh, this sounds fun, and it used to be, oh, look at all the things that could go wrong. Let me plan for them. Let me mitigate them, and it feels more like I'm deliberately not planning like I used to. I used to try to okay, well, we got to find all the sites and all the sites to see, and we got to do this. And it was I really felt compelled to do it, to overplan, to overprepare. Not that it worked, not that it was practical or useful, but
well, it definitely did not have us be stuck in desert in Egypt. We pre-planned for that.
There was that. Yeah. But that's just being doofus and not turning on the GPS location so that Uber would know where to get us.
Yeah, but if we pre-planned that wouldn't have happened.
Oh, we planned to have a taxi ready for us at a certain time at a certain place?
Yeah, actually booked it as an excursion, right?
Yeah.
But
Still.
but that means there's a lesson there, right?
Right.
It's the same lesson really that we had in Chile. with having the right documents, you doing the right thing. Like think about it. All the lessons that you learn on the trip are the same thing. You come across as a doofus, and I get upset at you.
Oh, were you upset at me in Egypt about it?
No, I didn't realize it was your fault.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was my fault until like we try to use the app later, and there's like, oh, turn on your GPS.
Yeah. I was not upset because I didn't realize.
I just assumed it was like a whole bunch of nobody wanted to come pick up. This is not
the right amount of money in
fare.
Egypt. Everybody
right, but I had no way to communicate that really.
Yeah.
Those Uber rides were really cheap. It was like
I think there was a dude who was trying to come, but then he couldn't find us and he gave up. Remember? To begin with, you did find a dude out there, and he was going to come.
Yeah.
But then, like, he's like, "Where are you? Where are you?" And then we're like, "Oh."
We did get to walk across the desert. We did get to walk down that road and take a little tuk-tuk and take a bus.
It was very thorough Egyptian experience.
It was like, wow, we're
like
the
we're
the only white people on the back of this like little bus. I mean, not like a school bus, like a little van. Loaded with people, more than there were seats, I think. And we don't speak Arabic at all. That was an adventure.
Yeah, in Ukraine, those little buses they're like private transports, right?
And then that's what it was. Yeah.
They're like basically like a glorified minivan.
Yeah. Like a.
But there were the case in Ukraine too, and there you pay instead of the bus might be free or whatever, but you pay. And I took quite a few of those.
Yeah, like a Sprinter van.
I was trying to remember the name of it, what it was called in Ukraine.
I don't think it was a Mercedes.
No, it was like a cheap Euro version of a Sprinter van, but they're everywhere.
Yeah,
and they're in Eastern Europe as well.
Yeah.
No, but but what I'm saying is. So when we travel, I don't plan either, right? The reason why I was nervous, it's interesting because I think this goes back, it gets really meta here, is because I know before any form of awareness, my body goes into this like tension, this tense spasm where I'm just like, always aware of like more vigilant, like when I travel, right? Like if there you go, if inside the house I can sit relax and there's for the most part no vigilance, and especially if I cognitively sit there and go, okay, well let me totally relax my body and there's no vigilance, I know how that feels. And I know the second the travel comes up, like that the day off or even the day before, my body tenses up because I go into some sort of, it's not, I mean, I think it's a remnants of all the trauma and all the unprocessed functioning in the world from childhood. It's because you're just like, you go out and you're just vigilant, right? Like, oh, somebody's going to run you over, or, there's not a bus, or you're walking, or someone's trying to rip you off, or, like all of the things in Ukraine, right? And we just watched the Tehran show with Iran's political situation. Like, it was kind of like that in Ukraine too, right? Like going out, you're like, oh, wait, am I going to, don't say things. Just like this total tension that I did not realize that I had all the time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so the last time when I was like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I just get tense, and I'm like not looking forward to it because I know I will get tense, and I don't want it. I don't want the tension, right? And so the fear was that I will be unable to not be tense. Do you see what I mean?
Your tension that you won't be able to not be tense.
Yeah, because now I'm aware of the tension. I know how my body used to feel and has felt. But now I don't want that. Like I just don't want it. But I know I have never traveled not being tense. Like I think it has been easing off a bit.
Yeah.
But I know I tend to go into that mode. And so like the desire not to was because I didn't want to be experiencing the world under that tension. Do you know what I mean? Like there you go. The first time we went to Japan was pre-COVID, was 2019. And then since then, we went back to Japan just like on the day trip, like a, hop over, yeah. And I noticed like, oh my gosh, just comparing me in Japan the first time versus me in Japan the second time is a different person. And we're talking about 2019 to 2025.
Yeah, right? No, I mean, it was other than the very end of it, it was very, very relaxed for me. It was very nonchalant. There was no, what are we going to do? I don't know. We'll go see if we can find some food. We'll go see if we can find something to do. There's no schedule.
And it could be like the second time you're traveling is different because you're not trying to cram in as things.
Right. We're like, we have
12 hours.
10, 12 hours between flights. Mm-hmm. We have a place to drop off our luggage. The guy was like, oh, you're going to need to get a box. The only way we can do this is if you get a box.
They're so serious in Japan.
It's so serious. And that was like a really big deal. I'm like, okay, how much is the box? And, however many yen it was like $5. I'm like, okay.
I think it was $3-something.
$3. I'm like,
$3-something.
But they were very serious. Like that would be a deal breaker for me.
They're very serious in Japan.
They very serious. I'm like,
yeah. Everything's taken very seriously in Japan, which is really interesting because their religion is even taken seriously. Like the application of seriousness to Shintoism is extremely serious.
They have a big, they had, I don't know if it's gotten better, a big suicide problem where, it's, if something, I don't know if it's disrespectful or dishonorable happens, it's like a lot of people believe the honorable thing to do is to go commit suicide.
To spare the world of them?
For the shame, the familial shame or something.
Oh yeah.
And,
that
was a plot element in was it
Tokyo Vice?
Tokyo Vice, yeah, that's a good show.
Yeah. Wait, I could be drawing connections here that do not exist, but the episode that we recorded on suicide, I had somebody say something that like. Something about shame associated with something with suicide. Like, oh no, it wasn't that. It was like, wouldn't it? So basically, the whole my idea on suicide is don't do it. This person's comment kind of implied that it's the right thing to do. Like if the circumstances of the body is such that it's not worth going, right? Like not physical, like I interpreted it as emotional, right? And obviously the whole point was missed in the sense that feeling like you have let someone down is a concept, a structural concept that is a societal based pressure that you feel because all of a sudden you're bad and you're not enough, right?
Right. Even if they're literally telling you let me down.
Yeah, it has, that is a concept that has nothing to do with you. That is your interaction with that human being.
Right.
But you drown, right? In a suicide thought, you're drowning in somebody else's truth that all of a sudden resonates onto your belief system that is your cultural norm. Jews don't commit suicides because, you need to continue on the bloodline. But they're really good at shaming the younger generations, right? Like I say that just because I grew up in a semi-Jewish household. Right. And they're, that if you don't like it, you can go live with your father type of situation, right? It's like, just, this is the way it is, societally, culturally, nationally. Mm-hmm. And then if you behave as such, all of a sudden you're bad. And not because I said so. Like, oh no, this is, in Japan's case, the entire culture says so. The entire society says so. So how can you be right if the entire country says you're wrong, right? And so you're like, you have nowhere to go, right? But it's because they are not raised to question the status quo, both of the elders, right? Because the elders held the most respect, and then two of society.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think I've said it on the podcast before. I read this story about this guy. He was I guess an entrepreneur, but he was an American living in Japan, spoke fluent Japanese, and he had He left his salaryman job, which is the it's salaryman thing. That's like the office worker. But you basically end up giving your life to the company, and they, move you from position to position, and you get paid a wage, and it's how much you make. How long have you been there? I've been there for 10 years. We know exactly how much you make because that's you're the 10-year salary, or whatever. He left it in order to pursue some entrepreneurial thing, and he was making better money than he was at the job. And he goes to try to rent an apartment, and they're like, "Well, who's your employer?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm self-employed." And they're like, "Oh, this isn't going to work." He's like, "No, I can just pay for the 12 months in cash today." They're like, "No. And we can't rent to someone who doesn't have an employer." This apartment landlord, I guess, couldn't deal with that, so he had to go somewhere else.
But he found a place.
I mean, he found a place.
Yeah.
But that mindset of like, oh no, this doesn't fit with my mental model of how society works. And that is, of course, inherited from society and culture and parents and religion and all that stuff. Yeah. I don't even know what to do with it. So I'm going to refuse
Right, they're just
12 months of guaranteed rent today in cash or whatever.
They're just a property manager who has to follow the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he finds an owner, who can
I mean, he obviously found someone or something, but
yeah, but that idea, right? Think about this. If you are trying to propagate your status quo, and your status quo is things are this way and this way only because that keeps me safe. Like in the long run, it's not about the society and it's not about the culture, the nationality or anything really. It's about you think that you abiding by these rules also keeps you safe personally, right? Mm-hmm. If you feel like the safety is more important than your discovery of wholeness, that's the choice you're making, right? You're choosing safety of the now that is lesser than what you actually want in the long run for your greater self, like your higher self. Mm-hmm. But it is more secure and more important to choose that than the wholeness that deep down, if you sat down and you went, okay, what do I actually want out of life? Like, do I want to be in limited this and then tense when I travel, right? Or tense when I'm driving and somebody cuts me off and start yelling and cursing? Do do I want that, or do I want just peace and wholeness? And everybody would say peace and wholeness, but then like we separate ourselves so much because we justify all the excuses and the stories we continue to run socially, nationally, countrywide, whatever, family dynamic wide, that will keep us in a status quo. And it just never, like, right, as long as the decision is there, it will never change.
Right.
And in my case, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally see myself going, oh, look, instead of me going, oh, look, I'm going on a journey, I tense up. And I'm like, oh, look, I'm back at like, well, now I have to be vigilantly aware what this journey is. Do I want to go on this journey?
Right. The at the end of that last Tokyo trip, we it's like, okay, we know there's a train that takes us back to the airport, and it leaves at, I don't know, 5:00, let's say, and it's starting to get a little close to 5:00, and I'm like, I'm getting a little anxious because I don't deal well with trains. Because I don't understand the train network and the subway system, and while there's some English, everything's kind of in Japanese, and it's the whole. I've never been comfortable with
Yeah, you did kind of lose it, and of course I pick up on your resonance a lot.
Even in New York, getting from wherever to wherever on the subway, and there's the red line and the blue line, and I don't know, and it just feels really confusing. And it's like, is it really confusing? No, it's nowhere near as confusing as I'm trying to make it out to be. And people, there's children doing it successfully. Obviously,
what's the fear of the train?
That I'm going to miss it or get on the wrong one or get on the right one going the wrong direction.
And
then we miss our flight. And then,
in this case, our flight, but in New York.
It's just, more delays or more.
Or is it more delays, or is there more you looking bad? Because you don't know.
No, it isn't really looking bad in this. It's, it's opportunity.
Not Not in Japan. In Japan, we miss our flight, yes. But in New York,
No, it isn't. I don't think it's looking bad for this because
unsafety of being
it's
somewhere.
it's unsafe. Of I don't know where I don't know how to do this. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know. It's all very, very. It feels very confusing. And the solution is you go talk to the dude, and the dude's like, "Go here, get on this train number at this time. That's it, right?" Because I just don't understand the system. It does make me feel kind of stupid because it's designed to be as simple as possible. I'm sure there's no complexity added for the sake of complexity. You're going to train number 123 on platform B. It's at 5:02 p.m. It's just be there, right? But then which ticket do you buy? Because there's a whole lot of different options for tickets, and I don't know. It's very confusing. And the first person would only take cash.
So what's the actual fear?
I think it's a fear of missing out. It's a fear of if we do it wrong, we've lost, because there's no train system here. So the only time I have experience with trains is when we're on a vacation, and on a vacation, time feels extra precious. So if we go the wrong way or get on the wrong train, we've lost precious vacation time.
So fear of missing out is what
it's a fear of missing out.
Do you not feel that tension come on automatically when you travel?
I feel it when it comes to trains. That's for sure.
Well, no, but like when we missed out on the Argentina drive, that was fear of missing out too.
I was upset that we missed out. But it really wasn't that bad. That out of all of the mishaps on the trip, that was the least triggering to me. Because I'm like, okay, well, I suppose this wasn't meant to be.
But did you see it? Did you see it as like this greater universe guiding you, and then you getting a lesson out of it?
Yeah. I saw it as like, oh, I was trying to really cram this in, really try to force something, and apparently that's not going to happen, and that's okay.
Yeah, like none of the occurrences that happen to us when we travel have actually nothing to do with the thing itself, like in a physical form. And it's always some sort of remnants of some sort of unsafety of a child that like interprets the scenario, right? Right. So as long as you interpret all scenarios as a broken, wounded child who just wants to cry and, cuddle up in the ball, like the world is that. Do you know what I mean? And we can't even like come about to interpret like it's that. It really comes down to that. It's that. You're honest. If you're having a reaction, are you honest that there's a broken child within you that is interpreting this through the lens of a broken child? Right? There's that honesty. And so then therefore you can see through yourself, right? You can see like, oh, here's the truth, the actual truth. Deep rooted truth that wants to be there because the child wants to be seen and heard, right? And it's that, or there's not an experience at all. That, right? If you drive up, chances are you'll have all the right documents in order to cross into Argentina. And even if you drive up and by some weird chance you don't, and then you don't have this child that needs to be acknowledged into its situation of peril, like it just won't even be a thing. Do you know what I mean? It would be like an experience that you went into Chilean border, you checked out, you checked back in, and then you drove back somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Like that whole, like, it's difficult. That's what it comes down to. It's difficult to imagine how you would function and what would the world look like if you were not yourself only living out of unprocessed and untriggered trauma of a child.
Yeah.
And so that is, to some extent, you have to basically integrate the child in. And the child is, as long as it goes unnoticed and unheard and screaming, it will always be doing that. Right? So the idea of wholeness, if the child is still triggered to the child, is not an option because the child doesn't even know where it belongs or where does it sit when you're whole. What happens to the child when you're whole, right?
Right. I mean, I would think it's just, it's integrated.
Yeah. But like in the meantime, you're refusing to acknowledge the
That it even
unintegration,
exists.
right?
That the child even exists.
Right. So the reaching of the wholeness will never happen as long as you choose to live and not acknowledge that there's a deep wounded child within you that is crying and needs attention and exists and only sees the world through that lens. Which is kind of like what it comes down to, is like the goal is not to not feel. The goal is actually to feel and realize how you're feeling it.
Right.
And that feeling, the lack of wholeness, is you actually refusing to acknowledge that your child is feeling all of these things that are completely not wholeness. And so only when you go into that space where you acknowledge how the child feels, which is like probably the scariest place to go, and that live in that space and like allow that truth to be, which is like viscerally uncomfortable for the most part because you've been avoiding that child, for 45 years of your life. Like your adult self will continue to self-sabotage everything about your life in order to force yourself not to go into that space of a child.
No, I mean I think that's very true. Is that all the calamities that have happened, especially probably all of them, but it's more obvious in recent history. It's like it's clear that they are there as a window into how my child self actually feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then if your adult self doesn't go that deep, doesn't acknowledge that deepness.
Yeah, I think nowadays if you don't start to connect the dots, then you just get more and more and more of them.
More and more and more of them, but you need to put in more and more energy in order to avoid the child that is coming up.
Right, but that's some crazy making stuff.
No, but that's the distractions that you will design in order to continue to avoid facing the depth of yourself that is the unintegrated child that is being avoided. Like whenever I don't think I said this on the last podcast, so I'll say it here. Like I had a meditation, and in my meditation, I saw myself as an adult, right? When I describe this, it will almost sound like a split personality disorder, but I think the positive psychosis is the episode that we recorded a while back. That is basically the essence of this. And it's your child feels unsafe. It feels, let's say, wounded. It feels unloved. It feels trapped. It feels unheard. It feels like it doesn't have any power, and then also it doesn't have any safety, right? So it's powerless and it's completely unsafe. And so however that feels to you, like individual you would know, okay, that is what the child is actually feeling. There's these undefined unknowns. Everything is scary. I'm powerless because as children we were powerless, right? And it's all unsafe. It's just all unsafe. And that is kind of like at all times the point of a pure awareness that you have under which you see the world through. And then the adult has this other created scenario that they have designed where they're completely avoiding how they actually emotionally feel. And they feel only the feelings of the child, right? Like through a proxy. But they have like drew this dam in between the two. Like, oh, if I actually feel what the child feels, then the adult is unsafe and the adult is out of control and the adult has zero power. Well, you don't want to feel that as an adult. So then an adult goes on this pretend journey where, oh no, I have control and I have power and, I'm safe because I have this much money in my bank account and I have this job and, I have, I don't know, whatever else you draw into this pretend scenario of why you're safe. So you're building a story in this little pretend world, the positive psychosis that I refer to, that you're safe and you have control, all to continue to avoid that the child feels unsafe and out of control.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when something happens to you in the everyday world, the feeling that you're actually trying to mask, the lie that you're trying to tell yourself, is something comes in, and deep down, the child actually feels, oh shit, this is totally unsafe and I feel out of control. But the adult cannot admit to that, right? Because you drew this dam. You're refusing to feel what the child actually feels. So you will take this input and you will try to rewrite the story. You were like, oh, they're the bad guy. Oh, no, I actually feel safe. Or logically, no, this makes sense. So this is, oh, no, like this bill is not that bad because I can just put it on my credit card and, that now I'll just pay it off 2 or 3 months later. Do you know what I mean? You will logically address it. You will pretend address it.
Mm-hmm.
You will justify it why this isn't so. But the only thing that it actually what the child wants / what will resolve all of your world's problems is if you go, it doesn't matter what this input is. It doesn't even matter how it's addressed in a 3-dimensional adult-like space here where I am as an adult. What I need to do is just go, okay, let's just skip the nonsense and just go straight into this makes me feel unsafe and I feel like I don't have any control.
Right.
And that's the child. And that is the only thing that you need to do is start actually bypassing the nonsense of an adult and go, this feels unsafe and I feel like I have zero control. Let the child feel it.
Yeah. Let the child feel it, which is the opposite of what anybody wants to do.
We basically, the reason why we drew the dam separation between those two factors of unsafety and out of control is because as an adult, you wouldn't have been able to continue to function on Earth if those two things were the case. So you had to create stories and lines and logics and whatever, pretending like that wasn't the case. And depending how advanced you were in your manipulation of self, because it comes down to how well you are manipulating yourself. If you're really good at manipulating yourself,
I'm pretty good.
Yeah, then this adult box is like super dominating, right? Like in my case, it's a very dominating box, and for me to penetrate myself into the child was almost impossible, right? And other people don't even realize that they do this, but they do this with distractions. Like, oh, look, here's an input. The input feels unsafe. Oh, well, instead of even realizing or recognizing that there's an input and then logicking it away and pretending like, oh, here's the money and here's the credit card payments and blah, blah, blah. Whatever this was, they're like, let's just pretend like there's no input and let's go drink. And a lot of people just do that. It doesn't even go into an adult brain. It just goes into avoidance brain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of an adult positive psychosis situation too.
Right.
Don't even acknowledge the input. There's not even an emotional anger or frustration or whatever. You just go and pretend like it didn't happen.
I think that was me for a lot of my life.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't feel, I didn't want to feel.
Yeah. Yeah. So world input, real life scenario, physical scenario that is happening to you, that actually really every physical scenario is there for emotional input. But let's say it's a physical scenario. Something comes in, adult guard number 1 is I'm going to pretend like nothing came in. Like just total denial that this is even a thing, right? And then, you would basically need physical stimuli in order to knob that off. Whether it's drugs or, sex or gambling or exercise or drinking or, whatever. Just completely avoid the fact that this is even a stimuli. The next thing is like, okay, well, yes, this is a stimuli and now I feel, and then the fake adult would be like, oh, just angry or frustrated or it's their fault or, right, you go in the blame game that, yes, you have an emotional feeling. You're allowing yourself to have an emotional capability, but then you're excusing
why.
Why and how and who's responsible and why this matters, it doesn't matter, or whatever, right?
But definitely it's not your fault, it's their fault.
Yeah. But even if you admitted that it's your fault, you can go into the blame game like, oh, I'm bad, or like, I brought this upon myself, or like, you do the shame thing, right? You could do the shame thing. But all of that, like all of those scenarios are just distractions still, because the adult is trying to process this as opposed to going, okay, let's just skip the nonsense and go straight into, this is a child receiving an input. How does the child feel?
Right. How do I actually feel?
Yeah. And the chances are it's unsafe and you have zero power. You're powerless.
Yeah. I mean,
and you don't have
that sums it up.
Yeah. But the child, like, what's interesting is you don't need to offer child solutions. The child does not need a solution.
Right. No, that's where I wanted to go to begin with. It was, I wanted to solve it. I'm like, oh, adult me has to solve something. But you don't. You just gotta, you just feel it.
Yeah.
Which, sucks at times, but just feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. But right, like there's a fear, what this comes down to is that it will hurt too much.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurt too much is what keeps you from going to that child.
No, I mean, that's very true.
And
I always think it'll hurt too much.
When I said to you, like, oh, when we start to travel, I get anxious and nervous because I will go into this tension mode. The tension mode is right. So as a child, I'm afraid of the fear. Now I'm afraid that I will go into that mode. Like at first I wasn't aware that I went into that tension mode. Right. And everything felt unsafe and I was tense. Right. Because the child is just like on some sort of like binocular lookout for everything. Right. But now the child is afraid that it will be afraid. Do you see what I mean? Just another level of fucked up.
No, I mean, I'm familiar with that too. I'm familiar with like the fear of being afraid, which is, it's super meta. And it's like, on the other hand, it's like, you just want to roll your eyes at it and go, it's so dumb, because it's like, we have nothing to fear but fear itself type of a thing.
Yeah. But the child has been fearing nonstop for the last 45 years in my case. Do you see what I mean? Like to a child, it doesn't make sense. None of this. Like if you,
but it doesn't have to make sense to the child. The whole point of the child is that it doesn't make sense. If it made sense, you wouldn't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
But the child doesn't have the logic and reasoning thing to go, well, this is okay because whatever 3D thing solves the problem or whatever, or makes or mitigates or makes it less bad or whatever. That is irrelevant. It's just, this is scary. This is triggering. This is unsafe.
Yeah, scary and triggering and unsafe. And then the adult designs all kinds of scenarios to avoid that feeling. And then the entire system then is basically in some sort of turmoil or stress because you're continuing to propagate the lie that is adult not letting the child feel what it wants to feel, right? It wants to be feeling, the child wants to feel safe, right? Mm-hmm. And it wants to feel heard, right?
Yeah.
And I know that's also very meta because like, how could that be a solution? Like technically there's no child. Here I am in my 45-year-old body. Technically, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's really strange because then you don't think it works, but it does work.
Yeah, and I don't know what kind of, now I have like a bunch of weird metaphors and analogies in my mind about it, but it's like when you're young, you get these, call them neural pathways or channels carved in your brain from whatever stimuli is coming in, and it's like, when a door slams, that is unsafe, and that this just some connection is just made, and that connection is it's still in there, and as an adult, and if anything, it's probably been dug deeper, almost like how a river will erode the Grand Canyon over time, that these channels are just, so deep in your brain that connect just the most benign of things
To unsafety.
oh my gosh, life-ending existential crisis on safety.
Mm-hmm.
Are they really? Probably not.
Yeah.
But it sure feels like it. And that's the important part, is that it feels like it.
Yeah.
Is actually
That's the truth.
accepting that it feels like it. It is true to me that missing a train is life-ending unsafety. Is it really? No. Are we gonna we go to Times Square instead of the Empire State Building? Oh no. Guess what? That just means it's a different adventure. Right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, even if you miss your flight, we've missed flights before. You get on the next one. It's not.
We don't handle that gracefully.
No, I don't handle that gracefully.
Because the child is.
We handle it better than some people. Remember, when the flights were grounded 3 Christmases ago, and we were stuck in Denver, and people were losing it.
Oh, missing Christmas,
right?
Because to them, missing Christmas was a big deal.
I mean, that felt less unsafe because it was like, okay, well, there's literally nothing we can do. It's not like we missed the flight and we have to run to get to it. And once that sense of control is just gone,
mm-hmm.
then it's like then it's a lot easier for me at least to surrender. There were plenty of people where that was not the case, though, just crying on the floor.
Yeah. The sense of control is what. It's interesting. The sense of control to me keeps me from crying. Right? The pretense of control keeps me from letting the child feel how it actually feels.
Yeah.
And then the second that's gone, and I let the child feel, chances are I'm going to cry.
See, to me, I wonder if it's almost the opposite, because it's almost once we had accepted, okay, there are no planes taking off because it's some sort of polar vortex.
Yeah, but that's an adult observation.
Once that happens, it becomes so much more peaceful to me.
As an adult.
Maybe even as a child. Maybe because, Mini-Me really wanted to control things.
Well, Mini-Me doesn't have control. And truth is, the whole point of Mini-Me is that it does not have logic, nor does it have control.
Man, maybe it is just as an adult. But it was like, up until then, when I'm talking with the gate agents and we're trying to book things online and we're like, oh, what if we fly through, whereversville and, hop around and, try to, do all this. That is very anxiety inducing to me. But as soon as I accept, we're spending Christmas in the Denver airport or Denver airport hotel. That's just how it is. Peace. So much peace. So much tranquility. Is it my preferred outcome? No. Do I feel bad that the kids don't have Christmas at home? Yeah. But it's so much more peaceful than, because I can finally give up. I can finally relax.
The truth is the kids just want peace in every moment. So you being stressed out about it is actually the opposite of what kids want.
I'm sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like being nonchalant and vibing with whatever is actually keeps the kids feeling safer, as opposed to the importance of having Christmas at home. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, but yeah, when the adult in me fights for control, and then when control is taken away from me completely, then I surrender. But then that's when the child actually feels why I was actually fighting for control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, like as a child, then I cry because like, oh, I had this preference.
Yeah, the universe didn't match. Reality doesn't match my preferred.
Yeah, things were taken away from me. And no amount of control is going to give it back to me. Do you see what I mean? The control is there for me as an adult to solve this problem for myself as a child.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And even the projection of that this is a problem for just more than me. Like, oh, the whole family. I'm solving this for the whole family. But honestly, it's a projection that I'm solving this for myself as a child. Like, oh, if I get home for Christmas, then the child will get what it wants or it will be at peace. Do you know what I mean? In the long run, like after I cried about it, it doesn't matter where we're home, if we're home for Christmas or not. Do you know what I mean? Like there's nothing different technically celebrating it on the 25th versus the 26th. Like zero change. Like we came home on the 26th and we had Christmas on the 26th and who knew the difference?
Right.
But it's the allowing the child to feel like, okay, the adult stopped fighting and denying how you actually want to feel. And what you want to do is you just want to cry because you don't get what you want.
Right. No, I mean, that in the end, that is the ultimate base of I guess what Buddhists would say, all suffering, is that, you are attached to something, a person, an outcome, a feeling, or whatever, and it's going to go away, or it's not there.
But I think
there you go.
Maybe the Buddhism needs to clarify that the adult is attached because it is trying to make the child feel safe and give a child a sense of peace. Because guess what? It's almost like the phase of psychosis, almost like you're now the parent and the child is still you. And now you're trying to parent yourself as an adult of how you wish you were parented as a child, but the child is still broken, that is you. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of like an interesting paradigm that is stuck in the system. At least that isn't how I feel. Maybe this is totally me having dual personality disorder. Nobody else ever feels this, but it really helps me realize what is it that I'm doing as an adult when I control things. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be a better parent to myself than my parents were to me. And I'm trying to give the child what the child wants. And in this case, it's Christmas at home as a 40-year-old. Right. And then the second I cannot, then the child then has finally a chance to just do what it wants, which is to cry, and because it didn't get what it wanted.
Right.
And then after the child cries, that's it. Like there's this comfort of like, okay, you know,
right.
Like, and so the whole thing becomes diffused, but on the grand scheme of things, that is what was necessary to begin with, is you giving your child ample opportunities just to cry about all the things that happened to you as a child where you didn't get what you wanted, or you were hurt, or your parents didn't protect you the right way. And enough of those crying sessions from the true point of a child, without suppressing tears, without pretending to have control, without pretending to resolve something or blame someone else for it, just letting the child cry enough times over and over and over will allow you to accept your truth as opposed to continuing to live in this lie box.
Yeah. Right.
And the fear of that pain of like crying over yourself, not getting what you wanted, such as Christmas at home or visits to pre-Columbus history museums in Santiago, or visits to Argentina. Like all of those, that's what they were for me. It was just like, there's a child that feels out of control, and here's an adult that is me that is trying to solve it.
Yeah.
Right. And in my case, like, I deemed you responsible. Because if I had control, this wouldn't have happened, and then the child would have got what it wanted, right? And so then, when I'm crying, I'm not crying as Tanya at 45 years old. I'm crying as Tanya at the age of 4 when I didn't get whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
Not to discount it, because that's the most important part.
Right.
That is the most important part. The truth of yourself lies in your acknowledgement, in the lies that you keep on propagating that avoid you from feeling your truth, which is just a child in pain and distress. And it requires no solutions other than allowing yourself to feel it. Like deteriorating this dam between the adult and the child. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, yeah. It's really difficult because, like, there's so many layers, right? And I'm good at manipulating myself as well as you're good at manipulating yourself. But it's like how many steps away you will go in order not to feel that pain that you're just afraid of feeling. Because as an adult, that was the solution. The solution was, child feels a lot of pain. This is not conducive to long-term survival on Earth. How do I mitigate this? I create this adult persona that has control, that does not feel pain, and in your case doesn't feel anything at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and in my case, like, doesn't feel anger or pain or frustration. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't shut off the feeling, but I shut off what I do with them. I don't let the child feel it. I take it into my adulthoodness and then I solve it.
No, see, I don't feel it, and I keep it together because that's appears good, and if I can appear good, then people will love me, and then
Yeah.
I'll get what I want.
Yeah.
Appear that I have it all together, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I think there's an interesting leeway. You know how you say there's like, logically, I see it as truth, then I believe it, and then I feel it.
hmm
That is the set of barriers you have for yourself before you reach this dammed up wall into the childhood.
Yeah,
Do you see what I mean?
yeah,
So that belief structure that you have established, like, oh yeah, well, Tanya can say something to me, or Buddha can say something to me, and I can see it. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
hmm
And then you're like, oh yeah, I'll let myself believe it. And then the feeling, right? Like even the feeling that you will feel as an adult can still be tapered if you are allowing yourself to feel it as an adult, as opposed to just going, no, let me erase this dam and go and feel it as a child.
Maybe it's like a fourth level. It feels like that each one of those waterfalls down is like a level of surrender into it.
Yeah. It
And
feels
it's like,
surrender.
the first level is okay. Maybe the 0th level is, you hear it and you know it. I know things, and that I'm familiar with things that may not be true, but I know them as, anecdotes or whatever. But then, there's I understand it to be, logically true or intellectually true.
Yeah.
And then, okay, well, I will let down another wall, and I believe it. I believe that this is true. This rings true to me
Yeah.
in a way that, right? Like, I don't know, quantum mechanics or relativity. It appears to be objectively true from a intellectual standpoint. Sure, the math, I guess, works out. I don't know. Do I believe it? Yeah, I guess I believe it because it's there's enough I guess evidence that it's accurate. But do I feel it? No, I don't feel that. I don't know how a human can feel that. It is so incongruent with our macro experience that particle, is it a particle, is it a wave? Oh, it's kind of both. Oh, it's kind of this probability field. What? I intellectually understand what that means, but feel that? No, I can't feel that. I don't know, maybe some people do.
This goes, so this, right, we talked about the 3-dimensional application of this. What you're talking about is now like a multi-dimensional application of this. Once you let your child integrate into your adult self, and there's not this dammed up barrier in between the two, you start to feel things as you're meant to multidimensionally, as opposed to where you lock yourself in 3-dimensionally. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything we just talked about is 3-dimensional. Actually, what keeps the 3-dimensional lock on your psyche, to where there's a law and order, and then there's a physics, and then there's laws of physics, and and quantum mechanics exists once you integrate. How about this deal? You can theoretically understand and maybe have some evidence of this is how quantum mechanics works, but quantum mechanics can only be felt and then viscerally interpreted once you integrate your child self and your adult self together. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Like, because this is, whenever I wrote down the prompt for this podcast, this is actually where the prompt came from, is we will never be able to know the whole truth of the universe until we are able to integrate ourselves in the 3-dimensional space. And until our 3-dimensional self is integrated and thus becomes a multidimensional self. Like, I'm not saying we fall apart and like don't exist in physical form. We actually transmute ourselves, because right now we're fractalized. Like this process of the child drowning and the adult pretending to be solving things in the world and like having a life and whatnot while the child is drowning is the essence of keeping us in three-dimensional space that has us completely unintegrated into any coherence with wholeness. But once you reach your cohesion, right, like once yourself is integrated into oneness, that's when you feel quantum mechanics. Like quantum mechanics. Does that make sense? And like I say quantum mechanics because I'm not big on words quantum mechanics because I'm totally not a scientific person. But the laws of the universe. Like with me, if I'm in an integrated state, I just know how the universe works, and you just know it. Like, and no amount of talking about it and trying to dissuade me from it will change it because I know how it works.
I guess I said, I don't feel it. When I was on mushrooms, I could feel it.
Yeah.
I could feel the truth in there that space and time is not real. Like there's nothing you could say to convince me otherwise. When you feel it at that level.
But when you're on mushrooms, what happens is the control portion of you gets turned off, right? There's no such thing as the damaged child of you. So the separation between self and self is removed. And then you're just vibing in the essence, which is this oneness. So you kind of get like tricked into the wholeness temporarily as psilocybin is just removing barriers. It's removing, the truth is the barriers are not there, and the barriers are only there to keep you in the three-dimensional comprehension, right? From the multidimensional standpoints, that's why it is. So when you're interpreting your three-dimensional interpretation, you need something to keep you anchored into that. And that anchoredness is this disintegration between an adult and a child. That's how we do it. Like that is how three-dimensionality has come to be. But when you're on psilocybin, there's no child, right? Like the child is not broken and crying. Like if it is,
during that trip, you're integrated.
You're integrated, but you're integrated where if the child is broken and crying, you're addressing it right away because you don't have this dam in between the two. And so then the adult is kind of like doing this. You're like vibing between the two halves of yourselves. And so then if you wanted to go into your higher mind thinking and start interpreting universe and time and space, hell, it's all there because you're not keeping yourself from accessing that information.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, it's interesting, right? Like wholeness is not just like peace and tranquility wholeness. It is wholeness that leads to knowledge. And so like when, back in the alchemical days when people like talked about integration, the Kabbalion talked about, like seeing the universe for what it is and not, being part of the swing, but actually using the swing as a toolkit. They're using self-integration, which is healing of the child, as a tool to get knowledge beyond three-dimensional form. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, because that's like the place from where knowledge originates, I think.
Well, right. Like, but
where it lives. It's like you can connect to the field.
Yeah. Because you're accessing your truth as opposed to continuing to live in a lie. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, as long as you're disintegrated between your adult and your child and you're pretending to live the story has you locked in the physical reality where this is the laws of physics. Right? And so like, right, to a child to say like, oh no, well, look, let's just come back in here on my side and let's work together. Like, let's work together. And then if you're in that space, or if you're not in that space and you're not working together with the child, for me to say like, yeah, but there's wholeness where the child is not crying all the time and you actually get what you want and there's all this manifestation, all this and all that. That sounds too good to be true if you're in a three-dimensional space because you're like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But once you go into the psilocybin world or like meditation and you access that world, right, then you're like, oh yeah, like the idea of not wholeness is not even an idea.
It's funny. We reject it because it sounds too good to be true.
Oh, it sounds too scary because it's too good to be true, right? Because over here, this is really not true. That's what it comes down to. In this space, it is actually not true because you designed this space for it not to be true.
Yeah.
Right. referencing back to the last podcast. You're designing a space of lesser than so you can continue to have this experience of lesser than.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so this is not to do a sales pitch on why it is better when you're not a lesser than. But it is important for you to go through this process to realize the whole process. Like once, I think there's a benefit in realizing this whole process and viscerally feeling it on your own and making a choice on your own. Do you want to play this game? Do you want to play that game? Do I want to have my wholeness fractalized and then thus not whole? Or do I want to integrate? Like, it's a really important set of decisions. And a lot of people should really take it seriously and take their time making those decisions. Do you know what I mean? Like, to begin with, I think I would have wanted to push this on to people, but now I realize no, it was a very, very delicate process. You have to want to integrate.
Right. It's not so much, it's more like, well, if you would like, I can give you a compass and there's north over there. But it's not like I can just fly you to the destination.
Yeah, I mean, technically you could override someone and
maybe
and give them a multidimensional input, right? Because once you go on the journey to begin with, once you start to feel this wholeness, you start to get an idea of what is it that you're actually doing, and you're fearing something that you don't understand. Do you know what I mean? And then, there you go. If enough people did psilocybin multiple times, or ayahuasca, or LSD, or what else? What else is there out there that does that? Huh?
Peyote.
Sure, whatever that removes that separation between self and child, and allows you to see yourself fractalized. Then you will go, oh yeah, look, I know how it feels to be fractalized, and now I know how it feels not to be fractalized. And if you have that thought, whenever you're in the two spaces, you start to gain awareness between the two spaces. Like, oh look, I'm triggered, therefore there's fractalization. What does this fractalization mean? So, I'm interpreting the world as lesser than in order to propagate a three-dimensional expression of myself. And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, and that's fine. Like Osha's style, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Sooner or later, when you do that loop enough and you heal your inner child and you integrate it into your adult self, then you can be like, oh, okay, well, now let's go into a larger interpretation of myself where I am integrated. And then there's literally a sea of knowledge and a world of knowledge that I have never even explored. It could even imagine that it exists out here that has nothing to do with three-dimensional interpretation of lesser than, because I am in one resonance with the wholeness. It's interesting. We once again end the podcast on a different way to be in a multidimensional space, as the podcast was all about the three-dimensional space. And anytime we finish it, I always say the next podcast should be us talking from this point on, but it takes us, an hour and a half to get to this point. And then the next podcast is a restart of this from the different angle.
There's a lot of angles. That's the great thing about the 3D world. Infinite angles.
There's infinite angles, yeah. It's infinite ways to keep yourself away from wholeness. Right. But yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.